Well, Ann Coulter, of course, best-selling author, sold millions of books. If you haven't read them all, check them out. Go to unchecked.com, and, of course, follow her on Twitter. You can get her latest column and everything. unchecked.com. A lot of good stuff up there, and it's Ann Coulter at Twitter. Ann Coulter, how you doing?
Fine, thanks. How are you, Mark Simone?
Very good. Hey, I was watching Law and Order last night. It was an old episode with an Ann Coulter character in it. They even used your name at one point. I guess.
Yeah, I just saw a recent Law and Order, and there's an all-new one, but the old one, I think, was a little bit better.
Yeah, there's a few of them. So what do you think is going to happen? January 20th, who's the president?
I think it's Biden, but I have to say, I don't know if it'll work, but this Texas lawsuit is pretty clever. It's the first one I've seen, I think, that I don't know if it'll work, gets around the standing requirements. Because a lot of, you'll hear on the media, and I mean, it is true. I think in a way, a lot of the fraud is baked into the cake, and unless you order another election in some of these states, there's no remedy, which does make it hard for courts. But mostly what these cases are being thrown out for is lack of standing. The person bringing suit isn't the one directly injured. There has to be proof of injury in fact, and so on and so forth. And I think the Texas lawsuit, what they're bringing a lawsuit, and many other states have joined, saying that these 4 or 5 states, by not following their own election processes and holding a fair and honest election, have injured the other states that did have fair elections in choosing the next president of the United States. And it gets around a lot of the standing objections, but it still seems to me that it's a pretty long shot, largely because of the only remedy is very extreme.
Yeah, well, you're not too encouraging, but I understand.
Well, we'll see. That's just. I mean, we'll see.
Well, if Biden were to take office, listen, he's got some really cutting-edge plans on the drawing board. Have you heard this one about wearing a mask? Wear a mask. How's that sound? No, I know. Well, let's hope he just takes as many naps as president as he did running for president. The lesson is, and Republicans ought to learn this, well, 2 lessons. One is, the Georgia runoffs on January 5th is the most important election in our lives right now. What we really want to shoot for, I mean, whether it's Trump or Biden, though, like I say, who knows? Looks like it's going to be Biden. You want Trump to have a majority, a Republican Senate, too. Biden, he'll be able to push through the far left flank of his party. They're afraid of the social justice warriors. They're afraid of all the wokesters and Black Lives Matter. They will push through the most extreme nation-destroying measures if the Democrats have House, Senate, presidency. I don't care what your politics are. You want a divided government. And the only way we're going to have the Republicans hold the Senate by a vote is if we win the Georgia runoff. So January 5th, most important vote. Second important point is Republicans need to win elections by unstealable margins. This has been true for a long time. Any close election the Democrats can steal and often have stolen, Frank in 2008, for example, many others. And this is the year they said they were running against Hitler. So I'm kind of thinking if they were ever going to steal an election, boy, they'd pull out all the stops this time. So even if Biden becomes president, it's very important that Donald Trump and company, Sidney Powell, whoever, keep these cases going and get rid of Dominion, get rid of these overseas servers doing the counting and all that. You think it's possible that somewhere, even if it's a year, that they'll clean this up and finally get fair elections?
Well, that's third. That's a very, very, very important point. I'm glad Republicans have finally noticed voter fraud. I don't think it's going to be the courts that are going to redo these systems. Now, I don't know. The Democrats are pretty open about wanting voting systems that that can be gamed and cheated, and they can do lots of votes. It's always hard for Democrats to get their voters to the polls. So, for one thing, this 6 months of voting, the early voting, I think it would be. I mean, Congress is within its constitutional rights to set a day for voting. The Constitution says that, a day. And it is absolutely within Congress's rights to say there's going to be 1 day of voting. Okay, Democrats, you can cheat all you want, but it's got to be in that 1 day. You don't get 3 months to cheat. 1 day for all the cheating you can do. Probably can't do that with the Democrat House, although that's going to be very close right now, and Biden probably wouldn't sign it because they need to be carrying, their voters to the poll in gurneys. And 3 months gives them a lot of time to do that. But state legislatures can also do that. And I think the number one priorities of the GOP should be no mail-in ballots, no early voting. Fine, steal votes, but there has to be, the chain of custody issue. I mean, maybe even trade off early voting by a week. If you're going to be out of town, the way absentee ballots have traditionally been used, you're going to be out of town, you're sick, you're going to the hospital. You show up, you ask for your ballot, you fill it out right there and hand it over. You don't leave the polling place with it. Of course, that is a setup for people being able to trade, sell, draw, or misplace their ballots.
Well, hey, if Biden were to become president, what are we going to do for 4 years with no functioning media, no functioning news media? Like Biden appoints a guy to be health secretary with no experience in health, and the media doesn't say a word. Can you imagine if Trump did that?
No, it's true, and that's another reason. Even if you generally prefer Democrats to Republicans. If you just don't want corrupt and incompetent government, I can promise you any Republicans' nominees are going to be vetted. And I might add, some useful vetting might be great, but instead we get, slanderous vetting. But you will get vetting with Republicans. You won't with Democrats. Just everything is just going to be the greatest thing. The media will be very boring. We'll have to go back to watching crime shows for the next 4 years. But I suspect the media and Trump have a symbiotic relationship here. Trump likes to be in the news, and the media's ratings are going, and readership is going to collapse if they don't keep Trump on the front pages and talking about him every night, MSNBC, CNN. I think that's part of the reason I sort of think some of these prosecutions will go forward, just so they can keep talking about Trump and keep getting the ratings.
Hey, what's going to happen to New York City? Is it ever going to come back to life and come back to what it was?
Man, that is a huge topic. And Los Angeles. We're all talking about it. Well, one terrifying thing, I think, for all New Yorkers should be, if Wall Street ever decided to leave, there's no hope. It is totally over then. It is Newark.
But they are. Goldman Sachs just announced they're moving to Florida.
Bits and pieces they are, or they're moving temporarily, or a lot are going to doing remote work from the Hamptons, from Connecticut, New Jersey. But New York is a lot of fun when it's not being run by de Blasio. And, COVID did have something to do with it. Way overblown, as you can see in other states that are wide open and have lower COVID deaths, way lower than New York. But New York is a lot of fun, and they have very expensive apartments. So, Cuomo seems to be aware that without the very rich of New York City, 90% of their budget is just whisked away. And I suspect a lot of those people want a normal functioning city again.
Well, I hope so. So the new column comes out tonight?
Yes, it does.
And you can get it. Just go to AnnCoulter.com, or make sure you follow Ann Coulter on Twitter. Lots of great tweeting all day.
Oh, I finally got a Parler account, but I haven't parlored yet.
Oh, okay. Parler is the new Twitter. It's taken over. You can follow her on Parler, Parler.
Eventually, it will be really on Coulter, but I probably won't do it until this weekend. But I have the account.
All right. And follow me on Parler, but follow Ann Coulter on Twitter.
Hey, do you do both? Because Twitter is more fun because there are more people on it right now. Do you just do it on the same thing on both?
Yeah, but Parler, you reach more people because they don't censor you. They don't.
Fair point. I can do the jokes that I can't do on Twitter.
Exactly. Or just go to AnnCoulter.com. A lot of great stuff there. AnnCoulter.com. Ann Coulter, thanks for being with us.
Good to talk to you, Mark Simone. Bye-bye.
All right. Take care.